Man, thank you for allowing me to get out of the building down there at USARC and come up here and be with you for your prayer breakfast. What Chaplain Willis didn't tell you is I hail from the great state of Alabama, and I say roll tide. Roll tide. I have two of my 5 children graduated from the University of Alabama, and 2 just a week ago received their 4-year ROTC scholarship to the University of Alabama, and my bank account says roll tide. So yesterday I drove up here in a GSA vehicle, and anytime that I go down to the chaplain school at Fort Jackson or I come up here to the chief's office, I always drive a GSA. And I've actually been the command chaplain in the Army Reserve for 6 days. This is my 6th day. And I haven't been fired yet, but tomorrow's a new day. And so my wife, I do it every time. I go the morning of that I'm going to leave to either go to Jackson or come up here to the Pentagon or to the DC area. And she takes me down to the TMP yard, and I draw the GSA, and I'll take it up to the USARC building. I'll put it in the parking lot up there, and I'll go home, finish getting stuff ready, and then she'll take me up there to leave. And so she does every time. She pulls in. I go in the building. It takes a while to get the vehicle, and I tell her, okay, when I pull around, you'll see me in the car, and you just follow me up to the headquarters building. Well, yesterday I go in there, and they said, hey, Chaplain, we had a lot going on, and so we don't have a lot of GSA vehicles left, and the only one we have for you is a cargo van. I was like, okay, I guess it could be worse, and then I went out and saw it. I'm like, well, it probably couldn't. I mean, I guess they could have given me like a Bradley or something, or a Hemi. And so I get the vehicle, do the PMCS, and I pull it around. I'm sitting there. My wife, she's sitting in the parking lot looking dead at me, and I'm sitting there going, okay, come on. She's just sitting there looking, and I'm waving, and she's just sitting there. And finally I get out, and she's dying laughing. She gets out of her car and gets her camera, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she said, nothing best for the new command chaplain. So I'm like, yeah, the Army and God has a way of humbling us. So I drove up here, and I told Master Chichester, they told me that he would meet me at the gate this morning. So I stayed at the State Bridge on base here, and I didn't know quite which gate would be open. Sometimes they close various gates, and if it's like Bragg. And so I said, okay, well, I'll leave 30 minutes early. I'd done a recon the evening before and knew where it was. And across the street, there's a little pull-off area. If I'm early, I'll just sit there. And so I was. It only took me like 2 minutes to get here, and I was sitting across the street from the Military Intelligence Readiness Command in a cargo van. And finally it hit me, this is probably suspicious. Somebody may get a call and go, hey, we got this creepy van sitting out in front of the headquarters, and so I thought, I better try to get in before I get shot or something. So I'm in a cargo van, and I'm sure my wife, she's a social media, I'm sure it will get posted at some point, the photo. 3 October 1993, at about 15:32, a long-awaited call came over the radio with one simple word, Irene. And then it rang out again. I say again, Irene. If you were in the military or up on world events, you would know that this was the kickoff for Operation Gothic Serpent in Mogadishu, Somalia. Special operators were trained for this mission. It was going to take about 15 minutes to go in and get this one drug lord, this one individual that was terrorizing the people of Mogadishu and Somalia as a whole. Simple operation. They trained and trained and trained and trained for. So Irene was the code word to kick off this operation. At that time, the Rangers went in, four corners setting up security. Other special operators go in on a rooftop. They go in and grab this individual and other individuals that were in this meeting with him. A little over 10 minutes, and the green light came over the radio. It says, hey, we're good. We have them. Bring in the convoys. We're going to load them up, be out of the city, no issues. And then something happened. Another call came over the radio just a few minutes later and said, we have a Black Hawk down. There's a Black Hawk been shot down in the city of Mogadishu. The mission just turned into a disaster. Not a few minutes later, another Black Hawk. Super 64, piloted by Warrant Officer Michael Durant, went down. If you know the story, Michael Durant was the only survivor on this aircraft. He was down. People were heading to the crash site. Everybody on the aircraft dead except Michael Durant. Two special operators requested permission to be inserted to provide security for the pilot until the Rangers and the others could get in. It was denied. Request again, denied. Do you realize what you're asking for? We can't protect you while you're on the ground. Doesn't matter. Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, Sergeant First Class Randy Shugart were inserted onto the crash site, providing security for the Warrant Officer Durant. They were later killed and awarded the Medal of Honor. Mike Durant survived, still alive to this day, retired from the military, still provides service to this country in his role. Last I knew, he was at Redstone Arsenal, still working in the rotary aircraft industry in the field. As a brand new lieutenant out of Air Defense Basic Course, the Patriot Missile Course, I had the pleasure of hearing, I was at an event, he was the guest speaker. So afterwards, as a curious new lieutenant, I went up to him and I asked him, I said, waited my turn, other folks wanted to talk to him, and I said, sir, how did you survive? How did you get through this time? If you know the story, he was taken captive, held for a number of days, and he said two words, faith and hope. I had faith in my country that no matter what, they would come get me. And I had faith in my God that no matter what happened, that he was with me. He said, at that time I wasn't a chaplain, lieutenant, I never lost hope. Now, if you've been in the military a while, and anytime you use the word hope to a commander, they'll say something like, hope is not a course of action. I worked for a general officer who constantly said that. He'd say, is this going to happen? Sir, I hope so. Well, hope's not a course of action. And I would always say, no, sir, it's not a course of action, but it's a very powerful force. Hope. Let me tell you a story in 1953, a true story, a scientific experiment with mice. They were studying two different types of mice, and they were trying to determine the resiliency of these mice. Now, in the scientific field, when they use animals for experiments and things like that for testing, most of the time it doesn't go well for the animal. So the study went like this. They took glass cylinders, filled them halfway up with water, and put the mice in the glass cylinders. And they were trying to determine what the resiliency was of these mice, how long they would survive. The study said, okay, we're gonna measure the first half and how long it takes them to drown, or when they just give up. and then we're gonna rescue the other half, and then put them back into the glass cylinder tomorrow and measure their resiliency. The first mice, drowned at 15 minutes. And so within about 30 minutes, half the mice had drowned. So they took the other ones out. The next day they put the mice back in, and how long do you think they swam before they finally drowned? 72 hours. They swam for 3 days. Now I don't know what was in their minds, but they were probably going, just keep swimming. There's hope. They're gonna rescue us. The human body, the human mind can do a lot. Can go through tremendous pressures and tremendous things in life as long as there's hope. It's once somebody gives up hope or realizes or comes to their own conclusion that no matter what situation, man, there's no hope, that's when they start making drastic and unhealthy decisions. So faith and hope. I will tell you that in life, and I have over and over again, I have been in places and in situations where I've realized, I need a power source bigger than myself. And I will tell you that you do as well. Now, you determine what that power source is. What gives you hope in life? What is your power source? This morning I want to share with you a psalm, probably one of the most, besides John 3:16, probably another one of the most quoted or read or passages held to in times of stress, in times of need. They printed on bandanas given to the military this psalm. And it's the 23rd Psalm. Listen what it says. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because you're with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now you may not have known, but the valley of the shadow of death is real. It's a real place in Israel. It's on a route that goes from Jerusalem up to Jericho. And if you don't take this route, it's a further around to get to where you're going on the other side. And so you can imagine shepherds were all the time, and people were all the time going through this valley of the shadow of death. Now, why was it called that? Well, it's a very steep canyon. The walls are it's very deep. The walls are very steep, and so it's dark in there. A lot of bandits, robbers, and would hide out in there and attack folks as they came through and steal and things like that. And so it became known as that. You can imagine David as a young shepherd boy taking the sheep through that. You can imagine. I can just hear him as he's quoting this. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because you are with me. You comfort me. You provide everything that I need in this particular time. Also, in the Bible, in life, valley refers to various things that we find ourselves in, situations and difficulties of life. The death of a loved one, sickness, the breakdown of a relationship, a combat deployment. So the Bible talks to it about being like these valleys of life. We experienced one this past, let's see, it was probably, I can't remember if it was right at the end of December or 1st of January, our son, this is his first duty assignment as a field artillery officer in the 82nd. He was over at the house the night before, and he was telling me all these things because he was in the, they used to call it GRF, I think it's now Immediate Response Force, his brigade in the 82nd, 1st Brigade Combat Team. He was sharing with me, Dad, he was like, Dad, you know, if we get this code word called, it means this. And he was going through all the various things because they had to be ready to go at a moment's notice. They haven't deployed the GRF in years. And then he says, but if we get this word, this is real world. We're gone. You know, I'm sitting there kind of thinking to myself, he's a new lieutenant, you know, it's kind of, and I'm thinking to myself, that will never happen. 2 a.m. I get a phone call. Dad, we just got the call. You know what happened? Embassy in Iraq, things like that. He's like, Dad, we're literally be on the bird in a matter of hours. So my wife, completely devastated. She was like, hey, of all your deployments, you know, it was one thing, but this is like, you know, this is my flesh and blood. You know, this is different. So I want to tell you 3 things about when you find yourself in a difficult situation, no matter what it is. I want to give you 3 things to think about this morning. Number 1 is this: valleys are unpredictable. You can't plan them, time them, schedule them. They always happen at the absolute worst time, right? You know what I'm talking about. You know, you got something big going on, get the kids ready, you know, we got to go, one of them throws up. Oh, great. Going somewhere, you get a flat tire. Oh, this is the last thing I needed, you know. Something happens, a relative gets sick, or a parent dies, and all of a sudden feels like the world comes crashing down. They're unpredictable. They just happen. They come at the absolute worst time. You know, in the military, it's why we train for the unknown, for the unpredictable, for what might happen. As a new, you know, private, you know, we would do things over and over and over, and I think, good grief, you know, this is crazy. I didn't understand. I just thought they were punishing us or something. That was part of the plan. It's why we train redundancy over and over and over. For when this happens, you're to do this. And it's just second nature. It automatically happens. I mean, you've been to jump school. You know what I'm talking about, right? Pre-jump training. Everybody has to do it. You know? What's one of the things that they do about 4 or 5 times during this pre-jump training? They'll say, jumpers, hit it. And you, 1,000, 2,000, you check can, you know. You go through. You do that because they want you to be second nature for when something happens. You go through and if you find yourself over water, you know, this is what you do. Paralyzed, trees, this is what you do. I remember I was jumping a new drop zone. It was Rayford DZ at Fort Bragg. First time I've ever jumped this drop zone. And we're going through the pre-jump training, and they say, "Hey, we're going to skip water. There's no water on the DZ." But you all know where I'm going, right? There is water on the DZ. And when I jump out, I go through my counts, check canopy, get canopy control. You know, look down. I'm going, "There's water." They said, and so then I'm sitting there, and then I'm mad. I'm kind of talking to myself, going, "They said there was no water." I knew what to do, but I'm like, now I'm going, hey, there's water. Another jumper that was kind of up and away a little bit, she's doing the same thing. Well, I pull on that, trying to get off the off the water. I barely missed it. She goes, "Doosh," you right in the middle of it. Fortunately, it was not very deep. But yeah, there was a little bitty pond. But it's why we train. It's why we go through things, because so that it becomes second nature. So that when we find ourselves in a firefight or over water or whatever, that we know how to react. We've been trained. We know what to do. The same thing in life. They're unpredictable. You're human. They're going to happen. If you find yourself in a tough situation, welcome to the human race, right? I mean, it happens. So be ready. What is that power source that you need to plug into? Where is it that you go, or that you find rejuvenation and just the ability to get up the next day and keep going? What gives you hope in life? Valley's impartial. If something's going to happen, you can ask my wife, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. God is just, maybe I haven't learned my lesson. He's just trying to teach me. I mean, I'm kind of life magnet. You know, things happen, but it's not because God is mad at you, mad at me. It's not payback for something we did or didn't do. It's just part of life. Good things happen to bad people, and then we find ourselves going, why do they get, and not me? Well, good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. It's just part of life. The third one, valleys are temporary. This is where hope comes in. Valleys are temporary. I'm talking about these times that you find yourself in. There's going to be an end. It's almost like going through a tunnel. And I know you'll say, well, Chaplain, every time I'm in a tunnel, I see a light up ahead, and I just know it's a train. What if it's the end of the tunnel? Yeah. What if that is what it is? It's temporary. As a chaplain, I believe all things happen for a purpose. I believe that God has a plan. I wish God would have revealed His plan to me as a young college student when I'm sitting in organic chemistry. I told the commander I was prepared for a medical career, so I was a biology major. I would have taken a much different major had I known I was going to be an Army chaplain. I wouldn't have gone through organic chemistry with Dr. Gant. I can promise you. I would not have done that. But I believe that God has a plan, that God has a purpose. God is trying to do something in your life. If you find yourself in a difficult situation, maybe ask, instead of why, maybe ask what. Maybe the difficulty that you're going through, you're going to be able to use one day for one of your young soldiers as you lead, and they're going through likely the same thing, and so you can help them. I believe that everything happens, God has a plan, and God has a purpose. In life, I talked about going through the valleys, but in life, most of us, we like to be on the mountaintop, right? Everything's going fine, If kids aren't sick, car will crank, everything is fine. But that's not where our faith and our character is built. It's in those times of, unfortunately, difficulty. When I served with Special Forces, we had a commander at one point that was he forged knives, and we actually built a forge downrange in Afghanistan, and so we would bring these Green Berets out of the field, and we'd put them in a forge, and it's something about taking this raw piece of metal and heating it up and then pounding the living daylights out of it. And then after a while, you see the product that was created, this beautiful blade. The same, I believe, is in life. That sometimes we're put into the fire. Sometimes it feels like we're beat. That maybe it's God molding us, forming us into the person that the plan that He has for our life. I believe, even in the darkest times, God is there. When it was Easter of 2009, I had just gotten to Afghanistan 4 days earlier, and we were having this. They were having this operation where they were taking all the chaplains and then chaplain assistants, and they're putting them out into all these fire bases to provide Easter services. I just gotten there. I didn't know the ring routes or anything like that. Well, I find myself at one of the very last fire bases, probably one of the most dangerous places to get in and get out of, even with aircraft. And I find myself on the aircraft. I had my chaplain assistant, and then there was this priest. He had to have been 80 years old. Father Treviglione. All of a sudden, we're coming into this fire base. Our helicopter comes under attack. Now we have an Apache escorting us. All of a sudden, we come under attack. All of a sudden, bullets start coming through the floor. I'm sitting there, and I've got my helmet on my head. Bullets are coming up this way. They're probably not going to shoot me in the top of my head, so I took it off and I sat on it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you can see holes and you can smell. And I look over at Father Treviglione. He's sound asleep. Sound asleep. Slept through the entire thing. Things happen in life. Sometimes you're on a Chinook that gets attacked, and the priest is asleep, and it's up to you to pray and whatever. Like, life happens. Life happens. If you don't remember anything this morning, I want you to remember these three things. Every problem has a purpose. Our faith, our character, our being who we are is forged in the valleys of life, in those difficult times. The third thing, the absolute most important thing I want you to take out this morning is even in the darkest of valleys, even in the darkest of times, you may think otherwise, you may be hard for someone to convince you, but God is there. I promise you. God is there. Earlier I asked you a question. I said, what's your power source? What do you turn to? What do you lean on to get refreshed? I can't answer that for you. You have to answer that. If you're a religious person, it's likely your faith. Maybe you're a spiritual person, and it's getting out into nature, being with family, connecting with something. What like heals your soul and your spirit. Whatever it is, it has to be exercised. It has to be utilized. It has to be sharpened. It has to be forged. You have to work at it. I'm gonna close with a story. This is not true, okay? But it's going to hopefully kind of the point that I want to make. There's a lumberjack contest. There's two lumberjacks, and their job, they each have one axe and a file and a big log laying horizontal on a stand. Their job, first one to chop through the log, wins. Simple enough. You chop through the log, you win. On one side you have Rock, the Rock. You know what I'm talking about, right? Dwayne Johnson's name, right? The Rock. On the other side you have Kevin Hart. You can imagine the Rock is going, hey brother, you don't stand a chance. So they each pick up their axe. The Rock, when they say go, starts beating away at this log. He's like, no matter what, I'm going to keep chopping until I get through this log. That's the first thing Kevin Hart does. He sits down, starts sharpening his axe. Lays the file down, starts chopping the log. Picks up the file, starts filing, sharpening the axe, starts chopping through the log. Dwayne Johnson, the Rock, is like, no matter how dull the axe is, I'm going to keep chopping this log. Who do you think wins? I don't know, it's not true, but likely the person who took time to sharpen their axe. If you're a leader, your soldiers or your family, the people around you deserve your very best. If you've ever been deployed, you've ever been in combat, as a leader, you can't say, you know what, I'm just going to power through it. I'm going to pull 20, 22-hour days. I'm going to eat very little, and I'm going to be there. You're not going to make it, right? You have to take time to sharpen your axe so you can come back. Our soldiers, people around us, deserve it, right? Our very best. So what is your power source? I want to challenge you to plug into it. We have absolutely great chaplains and religious affairs specialists all out into the Military Intelligence Readiness Command footprint, all out in the Reserve Command, all compos that are there to provide you what you need to connect spiritually, to provide religious services for you, to you. Take advantage of that. The only way you're going to get through that log is if you take time to sharpen your axe. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. I look forward for more times like this. I do want to give a shout out to, I wish he could have been here, but he had a death in the family. We prayed for Sergeant First Class Bennett and his family. But when we found out he was retiring, we did everything in our power to convince him to stay. He is a top-notch NCO. Where we're going in the Army Reserve with the Strong Bonds program is right where Sergeant First Class Bennett, Chaplain Wilson are taking it in the MIRC. I was out at the pre-command course and I met the brigade commander. I think it was the 505th Brigade Commander. And they were sharing with me about their Strong Bonds event they held in San Antonio. That's why they exist. That's why we have them, to give you a file to sharpen your axe. So God bless you. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. If there's anything that that we can do for you, we like to say we're from USARC and we're only here to help, right? But thank you for allowing me to come up here and sharing this time with you. God bless you, and know that I pray, and our team down at Bragg prays for you, your commander, your leaders, your soldiers, every single day. And if there's anything that we can ever do, just reach out. God bless.